Hey guys, today we are doing operations of functions. I've done this lesson a couple times already. I feel like um, you do this again in second semester. You've probably done this a little bit in Algebra 1. It's easy. It's just a matter of putting things together. You only have to be careful with parentheses. That would be the only thing that you want to be careful with today. If you can do that, you can do it all. So let's see what's happening here. Don't be scared by the weird notation. These problems are pretty easy. So with these problems, they are going to identify what stuff is. So here they said f of x is x plus 2, and g of x is this function 3x plus 5. So they give you two different functions, and then they are going to ask you to find f plus g of x. Okay, it's just kind of a weird notation. That is the exact same thing as f of x plus g of x. They just put it together and they put an x at the end. Don't let that be weird. Just when you see this, know what this means. It means, oh, they want me to write down f of x, then they want me to put a plus sign, and then they want me to write g of x. And then we're going to do it. We just add it together. And so we're looking for like terms. X and 3x is 4x. 2 and 2 is 4. I'm done. That's it. All right. If it looked like this, f minus g of x, well, that is the same thing as saying f of x minus g of x, that stuff right there. And so I'm going to do exactly what it says. It says write down f of x. Then it's going to say put a minus sign. And then I'm going to write g of x. Now, here's the problem. If you write it like this, it's wrong. Because I am minusing all of g of x. And so when it's minus more than one thing, you need to put that inside of parentheses. Okay, it's minus all of that together. Once I've done that, I'm subtracting. Well, if I'm subtracting something in front of the parentheses, I need to distribute that negative. And so this problem is really x plus 2 minus 3x minus 5. That's the key here. If you put that in parentheses and distribute that negative, this is easy, but that is the number one mistake every time on these problems. Now I can combine. X minus 3x is negative 2x. 2 minus 5 is negative 3. There's my setup. Let's try it again. They gave me f here. They gave me g here. They're asking me to find f plus g. So f plus g of x, oh cool. It means write down f, put a plus sign, write down g. I'm going to add them together. X squared, there's no other x squared, so I'm going to get x squared. Negative 3x and 4x is 1x. 1 and 5 is 6. That's it. Write down f, write down g, put a plus sign in the middle, combine like terms. That's all it's doing. Okay, what about f minus g? If I'm doing f minus g, I've got x squared minus 3x plus 1. I'm going to put a minus sign, and then I'm going to put g of x. If I just did that, it would be wrong. Because I'm subtracting more than one thing, I got to throw it in parentheses. All right, now I'm going to distribute that negative. So x squared minus 3x plus 1 minus 4x minus 5. And I'm going to combine like terms. X squared, negative 3x and negative 4x, so minus 7x. 1 minus 5 is negative 4. That's f minus g, f plus g. The other one we could do is multiply. All right, we could divide as well. I didn't throw dividing on here, but we could do that pretty easily. All right, if we're multiplying, f times g of x is the same thing as f of x times g of x. And so if they gave me these two setups here, f of x times g of x would be 2 x to the 2/3 times 4 x to the 5/6. Well, what would we do? Well, we multiply. 2 times 4 is 8. 2/3 and 5/6. Well, if I wanted to put those two things together, what do you need to do with exponents if you're multiplying their bases? You would have to add them. And so I would want to get a denominator of 6. So I'm going to make this become 4/6 times 5/6. I just multiplied top and bottom by 2 to make it have common denominators. So 4/6 plus 5/6 would be 9/6. Reduce that thing. 3/2 would be my new exponent. I didn't put a divide, but I could easily put a divide here. If I said f of x divided by g of x. That would just be 2x to the 2/3 divided by 4x to the 5/6. 2 divided by 4 would be 1/2. I would have to subtract my exponents. 5/6 is bigger than 2/3, so that would go on bottom. I would take 5/6 minus 4/6. It would get me 1/6 on bottom. So I could divide as well. I'm not quite sure why I didn't put those in my notes. All right, so with that in mind, let's just try one more. Let's do letter B because it looks a little bit different. F of x is this, g of x is that. We are trying to find f times g. So we'll write down f. We'll write down g. And multiply. 3 times 4 is 12. 2/3 and 5/3. What would I do with those two things? I would add them. So that would get me 7/3. Boom. There is my answer. I think that makes sense to us. I don't know if we need to go a whole lot further than that. So let's move on. Solving equation using nth root. So this is kind of definitely a change of pace from what we were just doing. But if we're doing solving equations, anytime we're solving, we are doing PEMDAS in reverse. If you've listened to my videos, you've heard me say that a lot of times. Every time we solve, you're going to hear me say it again here in a couple of lessons here as well. But PEMDAS in reverse. So what that means is I'm going to try and add and subtract something first. I'm going to get x by itself. Well, in this first problem, there's nothing to add or subtract. Then I would try to do multiply and divide. There's nothing over here that I'm multiplying or dividing. Then I would do exponents. Oh yeah, I've got an exponent. So that is what I'm trying to get rid of. What is the opposite of raising something to the third power? The opposite of raising something to the third power is taking the third root. The cube root is going to be the opposite here. And so if I take the cube root of a third power, those two things are going to cancel. And then on the right side, I'm saying, all right, what number multiplies together 3 times to get me 125? The answer to that is -5, because -5 times -5 times -5, that gets me -125. This is my answer. All right, if you don't believe me, we could always do that in my calculator. I could go parentheses -125, and if I want to do 1/3 power, it gets me -5. Let's try it again. Okay, so number 2, now we've got actually something to deal with here. So I would try to add or subtract. I can't. Then I would try to multiply or divide, and I need to do that because it's 3 times that. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3 first. -3 divided by 3 is -1. To get rid of the 5th power, I'm going to take the 5th root. All right, so what is the 5th root of -1? Or in other words, what number, when you multiply together 5 times, is going to get you -1? Well, -1 would. -1 times -1 times -1, that gets me -1. Number 3, PEMDAS in reverse. I'm solving for an x. Anytime I solve for an x, PEMDAS in reverse. First thing I'm looking to do is add or subtract. Well, I've got an add or subtract, but it's inside of parentheses, so I can't mess with that. Then I would go multiply, divide. Nothing being multiplied or divided. Then I would do exponents. Oh yeah, I got one of those. So to get rid of the 4th power, I've got to take the 4th root. So careful here. This is a tough one. X plus 4 equals the 4th root of 16. So again, we're answering the question, what number, when I multiply together 4 times, is going to get me 16? Well, the answer is 2, but it's also -2. Because if I went -2 times -2 times -2 times -2, these two would get me 4. These two would get me a +4. That would get me 16. And so just like when we took square roots, even roots, so 2nd root, 4th root, 6th root, 8th root, etc., need to have a plus or minus sign. So my numbers here are going to be 2 and -2, and you'll see why I separated here. 2 and -2, because now I need to do one last thing, which is subtract 4. I'm subtracting 4 from both numbers. Okay, subtract 4 from both numbers. X is going to be 2 minus 4 is -2. -2 minus 4 is -6. If I plugged either number into that setup right there, it would get me what I want. All right, be careful with that one. That one's the tricky one of the bunch so far. Let's do it again. X to the fourth minus 7 equals 9,993. So, PEMDAS in reverse. We are trying to add or subtract first. So, boom, get rid of that. Add 7. So, x to the fourth is 1,000. To get rid of x to the fourth power, I'm taking the fourth root. So in my calculator, if I don't know what the fourth root of 1,000 is, I could try it. 1,000 to the 1/4 power, because that's the fourth root. I'm sorry, I had to stop there. My brain shut down. It's because I typed in the wrong number. 10,000, not 1,000, to the 1/4 power. I was going to say, I knew what the answer was. I was just showing it to you. It's 10. I forgot a 0 in there the first time I did it. I'm silly. The answer is not 10, though. Why? Because I took the fourth root, and if I take the fourth root, I need plus or minus. That's going to get me my answer. What number multiplies together 4 times to get me 10,000? The number 10. 10 times 10 is 100, times 10 is 1,000, times 10 is 10,000. We're solving. Divide first, get rid of that 6. So x cubed is equal to whatever 162 divided by 6 is. 162 divided by 6 is 27. I'm getting rid of the cube, so to get rid of the cube, I'm cube rooting it. That cancels. What multiplies together 3 times to get me 27? It'd be 3. Not -3, because if I took -3 3 times, it would get me -27. I want +3. The only time I do plus or minus is when it's an even root, 2, 4, 6, etc. Here we go. One last one, getting rid of the 5th power. So to get rid of the 5th power, I'm taking the 5th root. So I'm left with x plus 1. What is the 5th root of 32? What number multiplies together 5 times to get me 32? It'd be 2, not plus or minus, because it's an odd root. And then I subtract 1, x is equal to 1. There is my answer there. All right. Those are it. I think you can follow that. I at least I hope so. Important stuff here, easy stuff there. Put that together and it shouldn't be too bad of a lesson. Hope that helps.